You've heard of Bach, you've heard of Mozart, and you've heard of Beethoven. But have you ever heard of Hartmann? What if I told you that there were a lot more than just the handful of composers that often define Western art music? That there are many incredible works, composers, and performers that have been neglected from the historical narrative. As a pianist and performer, I am intrigued by the vast number of less-known composers excluded from the overarching grand narrative. My M.Mus consists of piano performance and thesis, and I decided that I would like to bring these composers out of the shadows and bring awareness to the beauty of their work. This is where my journey began. I came across a piano trio by a Danish composer, Emil Hartmann, and decided to include him in my first M.Mus recital. Generally, before a musician learns and performs a work, they do research into the composer's compositional style and life. This is known as contextualization. With technology at our fingertips, this is usually a simple process, as the resources and information are often readily available. In this case, it was different. Hartmann's story had been lost in a musical history which has excluded him like so many others. This posed the problem of how I was to interpret his music without any viable information available. Well, this research has been a game of trying to piece together a puzzle without a reference picture. In order to gain an understanding of the life of Emil Hartmann, I have used a mixed methodology, using a micro-historical approach hand in hand with practice-led research as a means of collecting data. Microhistory focuses on specific cases, persons, and circumstances through an intensive historical study, usually not a part of the grand narrative. Its key principle emphasizes the importance of all people and figures as a part of forming history. Practice-led research, on the other hand, extracts data from the creative work itself alongside the performer as a means to provide insight and knowledge into the question area. Why is this research important, you may ask? Well, besides giving a forgotten composer a voice within the historical narrative, this research also highlights a much larger problem within musicology. Music history has been dominated by an overarching narrative of what is known as good music. This has affected how music knowledge is disseminated and appreciated, to the exclusion of non-Western and large parts of Western art music itself. As musicians, we tend to be limited to the constraints of the great composers, and yet it is possible to still find much greatness beyond that scope. My research sheds light on one micro-historical slice of the big pie, and I hope to be able to inspire performers and musicologists to uncover treasures in musical history that are still waiting to be discovered.